Hello and welcome to Larp. Today I want to review Calimacil Larp weapons and compare them to traditional foam sandwich latex build weapons like I'm making my videos like this one, and see how they stack up against each other. So if that is something that interests you, like and subscribe and I show you how these compare. I have been making LARP weapons for over 15 years. Pretty much when I started out LARPing, I began making weapons myself. And like 5 years ago, when I started this channel, I made a review of Hammerkunst foam weapons, which I think you can't even buy anymore because they went out of business. But in that video I thought, despite all their faults, they had the right idea. That is the method, like form molding is the right method to mass produce LARP weapons. And now, a few years later, this Canadian manufacturer, Calimacil, is doing this, and they're doing it great, at great quality. Now, they've been around for a number of years, but I've been hesitant to buy any of their weapons because, especially here in Europe, they are not cheap, and I just couldn't get my hands on some to try how they feel, how safe they would be. So I was hesitant to buy some, but then like a few months ago I saw a video from Shed on Shediversity, who was visiting the factory of Calimacil in Quebec, and what I saw there was blowing my mind. That was how I would produce LARP weapons, mass produce LARP weapons, if I had the time and funds to do it. And then I went ahead and I got these two weapons here, which is a lucky coincidence. This is like their newer models with a slightly sharper edge, and this is, I think, their old style of blade with a thicker edge. And this here looks a lot better, feels a lot better in the hand than this does. One thing up front, if you're going to buy Calimacil LARP weapons, I would go for this newer, slicker style and not get this style unless you just want to use it for like NPC or training purposes. This is more than enough for an NPC weapon or for training, but for a player character, this is the style to go. So these weapons are built molding the foam around the core within a silicone mold. That means there's no glue involved in the construction of this blade, which is one of the weak points of a traditional build weapon like this one. This is my Torvaler sword. This is about as good as I can make weapons. This got fiberglass core, weapons grade Ivesoti foam. The tip is reinforced with Kevlar fiber, and it is held together by the toughest yet flexible glue I could find that is usually used to glue shoe soles to the shoes. And still, after extended use, this comes apart in several places. So the paint will start to wear, especially at the handle, at the hilt and the pommel. And from repeated bashing into other weapons and armor, the seams, the glued together seams, will come apart in the blade and will start to delaminate, and then you go into danger of hitting something with the exposed core of the blade, which you never want to do. Also, these I still made with latex paint, which is it's like a fickle paint. It doesn't like oil, it doesn't like sunlight, basically it doesn't like anything comes into contact with on a Larp. But nowadays you wouldn't use latex anymore. You would use FlexiPaint or Plastidip, both of which I wanted to try out but haven't got around to it yet. Maybe this year. Maybe this year I finally get around to make a blade only of FlexiPaint. But anyway, as good and as tough as I made this, this is tougher. This has no glue seams that could come apart. This doesn't have latex paint. This is all molded, injection molded pretty much in one piece. Which is a bit disheartening, because if I wanted to make weapons of this quality, I would have to copy the method. And for a private person, for just one weapon, it's just not feasible to make a mold. It's way too expensive. And you would have to copy their foam material, their two-component foam, the exact recipe to replicate that. And that, of course, is proprietary, so I couldn't get my hands on this material even if I wanted to. So right out the bat, I think these are way more durable than the weapons that I can make. This will last a few seasons longer than this. Maybe twice as long, thrice as long. Also, the crossguard is hard and tough enough to parry with, which is really hard to do with sandwich construction. Granted, my weapons are a bit softer than these ones are, because the foam I use is just softer. But the difference is minuscule, and these are still perfectly safe to hit someone with, even unarmored. But with light padding, like gambesson, thick clothing, yeah, this is not a problem, it's totally fine. How do they stack up in the optics department? Look at this shield. Look how detailed everything is. These details are molded into place, and then they are airbrushing on the colors. I'm carving in my details with a soldering iron, and I've get similar details before paint. But because this foam is very soft, needs a lot of layers of paint to protect the foam, or else the hilt would just come apart. And these many layers of paint are hiding and obscuring all of the details I spent so much time putting in there. Also, I'm not as much as an artist as the guys from Calimacil are, so they've got more detail on here. What can I say? I can find two redeeming features about the weapons I make. These are cheaper to make, as long as you don't factor in your own time you spend making these. Then they would be about equal, I assume. But if you've got time and not enough money, it's still cheaper to make these than to buy these, though these will last you longer. So over the long run, it's about equal. Over the long run, these might even be cheaper. And because it's so much work to make these, I don't like to use them in training. So I'd rather have a basher like this that I can use and abuse in training without worrying about it. Also, this old series, this old style of blades from Calimacil is not as expensive as new style, so price on this is okay. So I rather use and destroy, use this up in training than destroy my own hand-built weapons. The other redeeming feature of this is 100% custom-made, one of a kind. You won't find any other player on a Larp anywhere in the world, never ever, run around with the exact same weapon as you. And you have the opportunity to make the weapon however you want. You get the exact weapon you want, and depending on your skill, the weapon you pictured in your head. While on the other hand, with a mass-produced weapon, you're limited to what they are offering, and you might run into other people that have your super good looking but then very special weapon, which is fine if you're just using a very generic arming sword like this. But if you have something more special, like this griffin sword, like the Witcher steel or silver sword, that becomes something that would at least annoy me personally. If I'm the cool Witcher character and I run into two other Witchers that have the exact same weapons as me, wolf medallion and armor. I think you could somewhat alleviate this problem by customizing these weapons. Especially the more generic one, there's room to improve on the hilt. Maybe wrap it in leather. Also notice both of these weapons are refurbished. That means they didn't quite pass the quality control of Calimacil, so they will have minor optical defects, but they are about, let's say, 20-30% cheaper than their Master Series. This, for example, only has very minor optical defects, and I'm going to use it to bash guys in plate armor, so I don't mind at all. This one got some more severe defects, like the mold on this pommel was misaligned, I think. That doesn't look super good, but that might also be because this is an older style weapon and the mold isn't quite as refined as the new molds. Because I don't know how you would misalign a mold. So yeah, I will try to customize this sword in particular next week and make it look a bit nicer. Then I have my sidearm for my ranger ready to go for the next convention. And what is left for me as a weapon builder? Yeah, it's kinda disheartening to tell the truth. The method I've spent 15 years refining is obsolete, pretty much. These weapons are better in many ways, more durable, safer, arguably they look better, but this is still more unique. What I will be doing personally is, if I want a standard weapon, standard sword, standard axe, a training weapon, NPC weapon, I will buy these Calimacil weapons, maybe customize them, and they will last me a long time. But if I want to have a one-of-a-kind weapon, something that I simply cannot buy, like a Flintstone hatchet, for example, I will still make those myself and then treasure these weapons and not use them up for an NPC character or for training, and instead use these old bashers. So, question for you, dear viewer. What is your favorite kind, favorite brand, favorite self-made kind of Larp weapon? What are you using for training or an NPC? What is the favorite weapon from one of your characters? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.